going to mug me?
Am I going to mug you?
Is that gorgeous or what, eh?
And I believe I can run a decent marathon.
Download Veely now.
Dear Hector, there's not much that would get me up at 4 a.m, but I have to say that despite the number of times I've been to fishing harbours, I still enjoy watching the activity. Here at Molfetta, the pre-dawn fish auction was exciting, not to say manic. The system of bidding hasn't changed much in over 100 years. The fish are bought on the knee-jerk instincts of the buyers, and is a highly competitive experience. And when those fiery Italian temperaments flare up, well, you'll likely get a lot more than you bargained for. North of Molfetta, you'll find Trani, with its Romanesque cathedral and Swabian castle, built by that other Norman conqueror, Frederick II. Steeped in history, Trani is one of the numerous ports that litter the Puglian coastline. In ancient times, they would have seen the jewels of the Orient coming in en route to the nobility of Europe, and the Crusaders going out to the wars in the Holy Lands. Ah, Dennis. My dear fellow, come in a bit closer and I'll show you what we're doing. It's a very, very simple dish from around here. It involves, on the table here, some sliced peppers, some chopped garlic, some fresh tomato sauce, and some lovely local mussels, which, by the way, I've picked very carefully, taken all the beard off. You need a good close of this. You must scrape off all the gunge and take the beard away so they're all nice and clean. Otherwise you get this nasty stuff and it spoils the whole dish, okay? So, the very first thing we do is put our peppers into the hot olive oil and let them sweat down for a second or two. Now, as they start to take a bit of the oil, we'll add some garlic. In goes the garlic. We've got quite an interesting... Back up to me a second, please, Dennis. We're on the fish market here and they're all stopped mending their nets for a few moments, watching us as usual in total amazement. What are these mad English people doing cooking on the quay? Well, that's how we like to do things on the Floyd programme, simple as that. Okay, those are sweating down nicely now. In goes the freshly made tomato sauce, like so. And then, this is terribly simple. You can do this on your caravanning holidays, your camping holidays. You can do it at home, do it wherever you like. Don't worry about the noise. This is a working port. There are bound to be motorbikes and apes and Vespers and things hurtling by. They all go in there, like so. A little grind of pepper. Stir around like so. The lid goes on for about 10 minutes or until the mussels have opened. Right, Dennis, this should be ready. I've just chopped the parsley for the final flavouring. Now, if you have a big fat close-up in there, that looks to be about right to me. A little bit more pepper. And quite, I think, fabulous mussels. Brilliant. If you think it's easy for me to get innocent bystanders to taste my dishes, you're mistaken. Usually they shy away as if I was offering them rat poison. But this lot, well, they tucked in with a vigour that surprised even me. Well, my dear Hector, I quickly found that Puglia, unlike the rest of Italy, is a region of rolling plains. The gently undulating countryside is crisscrossed with dry stone walls that enclose ancient groves of gnarled olive trees. Some of these trees are believed to be over 500 years old. In fact, we found one that was carbon dated at 2,000 years old and have been tended by the same families for generations. The process of making olive oil is fairly simple. The olives are put into a tank where the leaves are separated. Then the olives get washed, mashed, and ground into a pulp. It's this pulp that is put between the mesh sandwiches of these powerful presses. Oil and water is squeezed out, and the water is drained off before the oil is filtered and bottled. Even the leftover residue has a use as a dry fuel. What a perfect moment of tranquility. An olive grove, a wood fire, a piece of country Italian bread, some first-class olive oil drenched over the toast, sprinkled with crunchy sea salt. What a breakfast, what a snack. What about bread and dripping? Shouldn't we celebrate that too? Because this is marvellous. And so to Noci, which once a week plays host to a fabulous street market. It's hardly surprising to find it attracts these odd-looking people. Equally strange, I discovered that the town took its name from the walnuts, called Noci in Italian, that it produces. It also produces an amazing variety of fruit and vegetables. Italian markets are so full of life, and shopping here is a social event too, and much more fun than sprinting around a supermarket with a trolley. So, inspired, I thought I'd set up my stall and create a slight snack. And the first thing we'll do is we'll pop some lardons into this hot olive oil. Never mind the noise of the lorry behind. This is their town. Look, they're all here, and they want to collect and deliver their goods. They're very free to do that. So we fry these away till they're nice and crispy. Let those settle there for a moment. In the meantime, and because fresh pasta doesn't take very long to cook, we'll add some fresh pasta. Into there like that, okay? Now, they are, of course, thinking we're totally stark raving mad, which of course we are, but that doesn't really matter. So that goes in there now, like that. Now, because we need the maximum boiling speed for the pasta, we have to swap it over to our hotter one like so. That goes in there. Right, now close up on there, because the lardons are nicely fatty now. Then we put in the fresh broad beans. The next little bit, our shrimp, go into here. Now they're only very, very lightly cooked, okay? Now we keep those warm to one side, like so. Right. Our lovely stuff here is cooked. Do you mind if I make water on the pavement? Because that's what's going to happen. Beautiful, fresh tagliatelle, which, by the way, Dennis, when I went into the shop to buy this, I had to wait 6 minutes while they made it freshly, and it only cost £2 for a kilo. It's absolutely fabulous, knocks the spots off the dried stuff. Okay, so we'll shake that right out. No more water there. Bit of olive oil in there. And we quickly stir fry some spinach, just for a few seconds. That's all we need to do with that. We'll pop back that in there for a second. And there I offer you an outstanding new Italian dish.
Wandering the streets of any city is exciting. You never know what you'll find. Well, I found this. Pulcinella's real home is Naples, but way down south here in Barry, its slapstick fun still appeals to packed houses of the young and the young at heart. And if it seems familiar to you, Pulcinella has travelled north to Britain too and become Punch and Judy. And here it's a tradition that still passes down from father to son. Exploring the countryside south of Barry, I came upon this wonderful fortress farm. Peculiar to this part of Italy, it was built for and scarred by centuries of marauding pirates, invaders, and rustlers. In those times of trouble and peril, the farmers had to be totally self-contained. These high walls protected their vegetable gardens, fruit orchards, and vines. The vaults housed the livestock, and when not under attack, their diet would have been supplemented by the abundant game found locally, all of which they gave thanks for.
So I thought I'd cook a very simple dish, which is absolutely typical of the region. Some rabbit cooked in olive oil with olives and some capers. They call it rabbit alla cacciatoria. Hunter's rabbit. Very simple. All we do is pop in some olive oil into the pan, lots of olive oil, finest quality, first pressing virgin olive oil, superb stuff. Okay, let that take a bit of heat. Then we add some bits of rabbit, a couple of bits. Actually genuinely shot this morning, it's as fresh as it can be. Now, So they're beginning to brown a little. This is what we want. Now, we add some finely chopped onion. As we say in the cookery business, into each life a little shadow must fall. It is quite impossible in this bright sunshine to eliminate shadows as I lean over the pot. Little pepper. Little salt. It'll take a little more colour. Then, white wine goes in next. Okay. Then, because this is a free-range rabbit, we've got the wonderful liver and the kidneys to go in to enrich the flavour of the sauce. So we pop those in now. And quite simply, the lid goes onto that for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes until the rabbit's tender and until the wine begins to evaporate. And as it evaporates, during the cooking process, I'll be adding a little bit more wine, so we end up with a very rich, unctuous stock. Take the lid off and have a look. Yes, the sauce is beautifully reduced. We just taste it, see how it's going. Well, that's splendid. But to go with the richness of the olive oil, which is amalgamated with the white wine, we want a little acidity, which we're going to get from these superb Italian capers, little nasturtium seeds. As you can see, they're very small, not like the great big ones we often get in England, but they're wonderful. So we'll put a tablespoonful of those in, just to get some, as I say, some acidity against the rich amalgamation of the lovely olive oil and the white wine. Now, final thing for me to do is to chop a little bit of parsley. Coarsely chopped. This is a peasant dish, peasant in the best possible sense of the word. Not referring to the producer, I'm referring to real human beings that live off the land. A little bit of that on. Little twizzle. Mind your shadow, Floyd, he always says to me afterwards. I can't help it if the sun's shining. There we are. Rabbit alla cacciatore. And although I say it myself, once again, another modest masterpiece back on the pot.
The ancient town of Ostuni was one of the few defendable towns of this region, and it perches on 3 hills and is famous for its whitewashed houses cramped into narrow streets. After a period of Roman domination, the courageous people of Ostuni fought a series of long and bloody battles, defending themselves against the invading army of Hannibal. These days, the streets are somewhat quieter, apart from dangling dustbins and wheelbarrows. These curious buildings are called trulies. They're sort of nomad tents transformed into stone houses. They were traditionally built as dry stone buildings, so that the structures could be taken apart at a moment's notice and then be rebuilt after, say, a tax inspector or a marauding baron had trampled through. By the way, the name trulies comes from the Greek word trul, meaning dome. And before you think I'm showing off my classical education, you should perhaps know that ancient Greek is still spoken in some areas of Puglia. So, my dear Hector, my journey through Puglia started at the coast and has brought me back to the coast. The ancient town of Monopoly was my destination, with its crumbling defences and narrow streets with tall medieval houses. And talking of narrow streets, they were of course made for donkeys, not for vast, expensive limousines like I was driving. Anyway, once you do find your way through the maze of the old quarter, you'll be as captivated as I was by this magical harbour. The harbour, incidentally, which still bears traces of Byzantine and Venetian invaders.
If I'm looking a little tired today, there's a very good reason. I was up all night last night in my hotel room, thumbing through Italian cookery books, looking for some inspiration. Well, I couldn't find any. It was all a bit heavy, a bit too pastry, a bit too thick soups and stews and things, which aren't televisionally very interesting. So, I went to my old chum Elizabeth David and found a fabulous recipe called Saltimbocca, which means literally jump in the mouth. And Saltimbocca is a fillet of veal with a sliver of Parma ham wrapped into a sausage shape and fried in butter and flamed in masala. Very good, I thought. But let's develop that. Let's take in the sea and the land, and let's add some langoustine to them. So, Dennis, you come down here. What I've got are these beautiful veal sausage-like things stuffed with Parma ham and fresh langoustine. Okay, back up to me for a second. What I did, I got my mallet out and some flour, and I beat one of these fillets of veal out into a very thin shape like that. Very, very thin indeed. Okay, and I have a lovely thin slice of Parma ham, which fits on the top there. Okay. Then a beautiful langoustine tail. This was alive and kicking only minutes ago, and we put that in the middle of that. Then we put a little leaf of sage on there, like so, plus a little bit of pepper. Sorry if there are any shadows here, but the sun is shining and we can't help shadows. A little bit of pepper and a squeeze of lemon juice, like so. Oh, no pips though, we don't want pips. We fold that like that, and roll it, and roll it, and roll it, and roll it. And then, with the aid of a little piqueton, we have our veal paupiette stuffed with Parma ham and langoustine. Right, that's the first phase. Now, one of the things that's always a bit boring in the first part of the cooking sequence is getting the fat to the right temperature. Anyway, here's some butter sizzling away beautifully, so we'll pop our little paupiette straight into there. 1, 2, and 3. We'll brown them nicely all the way around. Ouch! Oh! Those artist's fingers have been burnt. There we are. They just simmer in that butter now for 3 or 4 moments, okay? 3 or 4 minutes. These are ready to come out of the pan now and on to phase 2. See, they're beautifully golden, and we put them onto this plate over here and keep them warm. You at home, of course, would keep them warm by placing it above the stove. I'm keeping them warm by putting them in the sunshine. And they're going to move now, Dennis. Right. Then, next thing is back onto the pot again, because we chuck our langoustines in. We fry those for just a couple of moments. All seafood should be very slightly undercooked. Add a squeeze of lemon in there as well. Right, and then, very important part of this dish is a very famous Italian wine called Marsala. And this isn't Marsala, this is red wine. This is Marsala, and this is a dry, fortified wine. Now, a loving close-up on that while it bubbles away because we have to reduce that right down. This sauce is reduced to my satisfaction and the langoustine are cooked. So I'll take the langoustine out of the plate now, out of the pot, and place them in between the little paupiètes of veal. I've taken out the little sticks as well, by the way. Anyway, back over here now, please, onto my sauce, which is beautifully reduced. It's got the juices of the veal in there, the juices of the langoustine in there, and the marsala, of course, and as a finishing, enriching touch, a little dollop of cream. And it's very difficult at this stage. You must be very careful not to curdle the cream in the alcoholic sauce that's underneath it. Okay? And to make it even richer, stay there, Dennis, stay there, make it even richer, we stir in a pat of butter as well and melt that into it, and then we shall have a creamy, unctuous marsala, veal and langoustine sauce to go over my finished dish. So as soon as that butter's melted, we can pour it over and we'll be in business in a major way. I'll just have a quick slurp while that's melting down. See, I can drink wine and stir a spoon at the same time, which is more than President Reagan could do. He couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. Right, sir. Sauce goes on. And then, to celebrate one of the specialities of the region, we'll garnish it with some sea anemones. Sea caviar, this is. You just scoop out that little bit of flesh with a spoon. It's exquisite and delicious, highly esteemed. And then, for a little piquancy, big fat close-up into there, that's grated lemon and parsley, fresh lemon zine. There's one of the workers driving off just at the right moment. We've got enough noise here already with boats chugging away in the background, motorbikes, the whole lot. Oh, life is so hard, isn't it? Anyway, there we are. That, for me, is my interpretation of Puglia on a plate. Thank you. Thank you very much. Absolutely brilliant. Okay. Shot over here, Dennis. Okay. Dennis.
It's amazing, isn't it, how a few well-placed lira can bring a smile to people's faces?
Very good.